Peace and love. This is YogaSkills and my good friend Amani Kush. We are here. We're still here in Kemet, in Aswan, in Nubia, the place in Kemet where the people come from. We're in the south, not in the north. We are in the south, where the Africans who created Kemet came from, and also they came from further south into in the interior of Africa at the beginning of the Nile River, the Hapi. Okay, and so I want to continue our discussion about Kemetic Yoga. I want to say that first of all, again, we use the term Kemetic Yoga simply because we want to let people know what we are doing. We don't want to have an obscure word that nobody knows what it is. Also, the term Kemetic Yoga, I trademarked. Number one, I came up with the term Kemetic Yoga because in the beginning we used the term Egyptian Yoga, but through our education about ancient Africa and history, we know that the word Egypt comes from the Greek word Egyptos, and that Egypt is not a Kemetic word, and that this country that we are in now was only called Egypt at a particular time in history. And so we know that it was originally called Egypt. It was originally called Kemet. Okay? So I made the decision to not use the term Egyptian yoga to describe the system of yoga that myself and my teacher developed starting back in the 1970s, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was a specific system. Even though other people, another guy wrote a book and he used the term Egyptian yoga, even though the term Egyptian yoga was already used, started in 1980 by Dr. Hapi to describe what he was teaching. He used the term Egyptian yoga. Then by 1995, a guy came along and said, "Oh, I wrote a book called Egyptian Yoga. He called me up and said he wanted me to look at the book," right? So when I look at the book, I say, well, this has information that comes from us, but it doesn't have any footnotes or any type of references that says where I got this information from. This information came from YogaSkills and Dr. Hapi, but there was no statement like that. It was just like, oh, I created this by myself. And then some of the information was wrong. Many of the movements and postures were done inefficiently, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, to keep controversy down, we're going to use the term Kemetic Yoga, and then they can keep the term Egyptian Yoga, right? So that's what we did. And so I trademarked the term Kemetic Yoga because my students, who I was certifying to become Kemetic Yoga teachers, wanted to be able to, were having difficulty being able to teach Kemetic Yoga or the system of yoga that they were teaching in public schools and in yoga studios and places like that, because we never joined the Yoga Alliance. So when I tried to put our school under the Yoga Alliance told me that, well, first of all, they accepted us, but they put us under Hatha Yoga. And so I said, we're not doing Hatha Yoga, we do Kemetic Yoga. So then they said, we don't recognize Kemetic Yoga. I said, well, you recognize laughing yoga, you recognize Christian yoga, you recognize goat yoga and dog and cat yoga and beer yoga, and people can literally become certified to be instructors and all of these weird type of things, but you don't want to recognize yoga that is not coming under the orientation of Hinduism or the orientation of Indian philosophy, but it's coming from an African perspective. And so they told me, well, you should get a trademark for that. So that's why I got the trademark. So for two reasons, so that Yoga Alliance would accept us and put us under Kemetic Yoga when we registered with them. And we wanted to register our school with the Yoga Alliance so that the graduates of our school would be able to get employment at places that would only recognize people who had graduated from a yoga teacher program that was authorized by the Yoga Alliance. So that's why. We have. That's why we went to Yoga Alliance, and that's the history of the issue. And so I have never used the trademark to force anybody to say, oh, you can't use Kemetic Yoga. I never try to enforce the trademark. Even though I see people on YouTube, they say, I'm going to do some Kemetic Yoga. And then they do any type of yoga that has nothing to do with Kemetic Yoga. They never trained in Kemetic Yoga. But they saying that they're doing Kemetic Yoga because they know Kemetic Yoga has become popular, and they get a lot of, clickbait. So they use the term Kemetic Yoga as clickbait, right? But they're not doing Kemetic Yoga. So, but I've never gone after none of these people or nothing like that. It's just like, I just chose not to do that. Now, on the other hand, if somebody really, if the mainstream, or let's just say people from the mainstream, if they wanted to culturally appropriate Kemetic Yoga, our trademark would protect it. Because then I would say, no, you can't do that. If you from Yoga Journal, or you from Gaia or Gaiam, and you want to talk about Kemetic Yoga, no, you can't do that because you're violating our trademark. And I've had to have those discussions with people in the past who wanted to just use Kemetic Yoga and abuse it in certain ways, So I've had to have those conversations. So I think this discussion is important because a lot of people have misconceptions about, why is there a trademark? Kemetic Yoga, to me, it's just like you have some of the most popular forms of yoga. You have Ashtanga Yoga, right? Mm-hmm. Ashtanga Yoga was created by a man whose name is I forget his name, but it was created by a man, Toby Joyce, right? That was his name. He has a trademark on the term Kemetic Yoga. I mean, on the term Ashtanga Yoga. I cannot just go and say I'm going to do Ashtanga Yoga, get up on YouTube, and then do some Kemetic Yoga and call it Ashtanga Yoga. BKS Iyengar, he has a trademark on the term Iyengar Yoga because that's something that he created. He developed the concept, the philosophy behind it, the movements, the postures that they do. He created that, and they have a trademark on Iyengar Yoga. The guy named Chadoni Bikram, he has a trademark on the term Bikram Yoga because it's a type of yoga. You have Kundalini Yoga. That guy who developed that, he has a trademark. So that's what people do when they have intellectual property. Kemetic Yoga, as it is now formulated, is specifically designed from my own mind, from my concept. This is my intellectual property. So I have a trademark on it. when we do Kemetic Yoga, we not doing it the same way everybody else is doing yoga. When you see Kemetic Yoga, it looks very specific, right? It looks very, you can, when I see somebody doing Kemetic Yoga, I say that person was either trained by me or one of the people that has been trained and certified, one of the 20,000 people in the world that have been trained and certified in Kemetic Yoga, because it's unique. When I see somebody doing a stronger yoga, I say, oh, that's a stronger yoga. When I see somebody doing Iyengar yoga, I recognize that that yoga is because it's carrying the characteristics of how that particular practice is being carried out. When I see somebody doing Egyptian yoga, I know that person was trained by so-and-so because they're doing it in the way that those people do it. They don't do it the same way that we do it in Kemetic Yoga. They may do something that looks halfway similar, but it's not the same thing. So Kemetic Yoga has its own philosophy. It has its own philosophy of practice, and it has its own set of practices that conform to what we call rutherford breathing and geometric progression and other concepts and ideas like that other people don't know about. When in Kemetic Yoga, we do practices which are unique to Kemetic Yoga. We do Ma'at Ka. Ma'at Ka is not Ma'at Ka is something that came to me when I was in Kemet. And I just sort of, the ancestors or the spirits provided me with Ma'at Ka. The ancestors or the spirits provided me with the Tekken sequence and many other of the practices that we do, So I can call this Kemetic Yoga, and it fits under, our system. And the proof, and also if I say, oh, this came to me in a download, or this came to me in a dream or some type of inspiration, the proof of the pudding that this is real Kemetic Yoga is because of the fact that when people start to do it, they feel the effects. They experience the healing benefits of it. Their bodies get better, their ailments get better, their psychology gets better, their mind is improved. Ma'at Ka, Maatka, is practiced all over the world, and where does it come from? It doesn't come from this book of Kemet or that book from Kemet. It came from something that I was inspired by when I was just next to the Hapi River, next to the Nile River, and this information of how to do this particular sequence, it came to me.
So I would like to say that the uniqueness of Kemetic Yoga is what you call YogaSkills method, right? And that's why you can see like the movements are all of them coordinated with the breath, which makes the practice more slow. You really enter in a state of flow, coordinating all the movements with the breath, and that's what makes this practice so powerful in the terms of internal self-regulation, because of course you are moving your body, gonna be healthy for your posture, your muscles and all of that, but when you use this controlled deep breathing, you can change all your internal states, and you're gonna change all your biology, and then when you combine that even with stillness, you can heal your body, you can change everything in your life. And that particular characteristic of Kemetic Yoga, I think, is what differentiates it for any other practice of yoga. And I'm not trying to say that the other practices are not good, but this practice is very much powerful for that reason, and specifically for the black people, because it relates to our own culture. the culture that came from our ancestors. So I never got into yoga before I heard about Kemetic Yoga, because I used to look to yoga and doesn't have no connection. But when I came to know that, oh, our ancestors, this practice came from our ancestors, that changed all the things for me. And so I experienced many transformations in my life because of this practice, and the uniqueness characteristics input this emphasis on the breath, you know, and this internal self-regulation.
Yeah, and so in our teacher training, we have over 400 pages of training manual that is giving us specific guidelines and how to approach this practice. Okay, it's not just bend over, turn around, twist. It's very specific. It provides the philosophical foundation to it. It goes into what we call quality assurance. It goes into what we call best practices. We do not want anybody to go into Kemetic Yoga and then have an injury, to injure their knee, to injure their ankle, to hurt their neck or their back, or even to injure themselves psychologically, because some forms of yoga activates a lot of energy and can even injure a person psychologically if they are not ready for that type of energy to be expressed and to move and circulate in their body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we, in our system is based upon an intense knowledge of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and also an understanding of the energy body, which people commonly use the terms chakras, which are the energy centers or wheels that operate within the body, and the nadis, which are the energy channels through which life force and energy flows. So our system is very intimately based upon those things, and you're not going to see the same way that we interpret and apply these principles in other forms of yoga. That's why even when people come to us, they say, "Oh, I've been doing this yoga and that yoga for so many years." That's fine. You can do that. All of that is good, but that's not going to give you a foundation in our yoga, because you have to learn how to coordinate your breathing properly. You have to learn how to move energy up your spine, move it to the top of your head, move it into the middle of your forehead, all on one inhalation. You have to learn how to move that energy through your arms, into your hands, down your legs, into your feet, all on one exhalation. Every time you inhale and every time you exhale, you are creating that same circulation of energy, whether you are being still and doing your meditation, or whether you are in motion, whether you are doing movements and postures. You are always causing that energy to move and circulate in a particular manner. You're never breathing in and out to your mouth. I've seen somebody who said that they doing Egyptian yoga, and he stand in front of the pyramid of Saqqara for an hour, and he say, do this position, do that position. Not even one time did this particular individual say inhale or exhale. I have never even heard the most rudimentary yoga student or practitioner teach a class and say never, and without telling you to inhale or exhale at some point. You have to understand how to use the breath. You have to understand how to move and circulate life force and energy. The essence of yoga is the movement of life force and energy. you are not causing the internal changes to your cells, your atoms, and your subatomic particles. What are subatomic particles? That's what particles. That's when we get into, you know, quantum physics and understanding how all of these different forces within the body, dark matter, dark energy, how all these things operate. So with Kemetic Yoga, you can get very, very deep. It's not just doing a position that's going to stretch your hamstring. It's not just doing a position that's going to strengthen your thigh muscles and all that kind of stuff. It's way, way beyond that. And so when people who come and they start to practice Kemetic Yoga, these people are much more focused. They have a high level of concentration. They have a higher ability to really stay on task, because it's really remolding you. It's remolding your consciousness. It's remolding your connection and your relationship between your mind and with your body, and making you aware of energy. When we do Kemetic Yoga, what's one of the things that we do constantly? We keep the tip of the tongue connected to the roof of the mouth, to one of the 3 points along the hard palate at the roof of the mouth. Who else tells you that? You know, who else makes that as a important point? So there are certain points: ruler for breathing, geometric progression, tongue connection, energy flow, so on and so forth. Those are the things that make Kemetic Yoga unique. But those are also the things that make Kemetic Yoga so powerful. That's why people who start to practice Kemetic Yoga, even though they may have been doing other forms of yoga for 10, 15 years, they say, I have experienced a profound change in myself because of this particular practice. And I'm not bragging about it. I'm just saying this is what people report back to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the power of the breath.
The power of the breath, right. So Kemetic Yoga is based upon the breath, is based upon deep, controlled, deep breathing. It's based upon what our ancestors called Shu, which is the breath, what our ancestors called Sekum, which is the life force or the energy that moves through our bodies. You know, is based upon understanding the connection between the Ka, the Ku, the Ba, the different divisions of the soul, the mind, the spirit, and how they operate together. Okay? And these are the things that we learn.
And put everything together in harmony of my art.
Yes, yes. So, we're going to end there, and then we're going to come back with our final excerpt of our series coming from Aswan, from the Nile River, the Hapi. The name of this river that you see behind us, this is the Hapi River, Hapi, Hotel.